Hey guys, welcome back today. Praying everyone had a blessed long weekend, Memorial Day weekend, and spent a little time, of course, thinking and remembering and recalling those who have given their lives for our freedom. And blessed to be back with you today and have a few minutes to look at being content. So the question today is, are you content? Um, Read a story about a man who became a Christian as an adult and left the security and popularity of his former career as he was an official religious leader. He left all that to follow Christ. And the persecution that became his companion throughout the rest of the remaining years of his life was just the beginning of all of his woes and those things that he suffered. He was misunderstood, misrepresented, maligned. Even though that happened to him, he pressed on with joy. On top of all that, he suffered from a physical ailment so severe that he called it a thorn in my flesh. Some have speculated that perhaps it was an intense migraine that revisited him on a regular basis. By now, you probably know that I'm referring to Saul of Tarsus, who later became Paul or called Paul. And he was not one to dwell on his own difficulties or ailments, but he did take time to record a partial list of them in his second letter to his friends in Corinth. I'll read that to you in just a moment, but I want you to, in thinking about being content today, let's look at Philippians chapter 4 and verse 11, which says this. I don't say this. Oh, by the way, verse 10, he was talking about rejoicing in the Lord, speaking of the joy that he had regardless of the circumstances that he was in. Then verse 11 says, I don't say this out of need, for I have learned to be content in whatever circumstances I am. But he did take a few moments to write down some of the things that he had experienced. And we see that in Second Corinthians chapter 11 and beginning with verse 23. With far more labors, many more imprisonments, far worse beatings, near death many times. 5 times I received from the Jews 40 lashes minus one. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I have spent a night and a day in the depths of the sea. On frequent journey, I faced dangers from rivers, dangers from robbers, dangers from my own people, dangers from the Gentiles, dangers in the city, dangers in the open country, dangers on the sea, and dangers among false brothers, labor and hardship, many sleepless nights, hunger and thirst, often without food, cold, and lacking clothing. And then ending with verse 28, not to mention other things, there's a daily pressure on me, my care for all the churches. So Paul had quite the life even after he became a Christian. But we see from Philippians 4:11 that he was content with, he said, with whatever circumstances I am in. And it is so very true that although he experienced more hardships than several people might, his journey got even more rugged as time passed. Finally, he was arrested. He was placed under constant guard of Roman soldiers, chained to them for 2 years. And while he was allowed to remain in his own rented quarters, according to Acts chapter 28 and verse 30, the restrictions to him must have been very unsettling, very irksome, I suppose, to a man who had grown accustomed to traveling and to the freedom of setting his own agenda each day. Yet not once do we read of him losing patience and throwing a fit. On the contrary, He saw his circumstances as an opportunity to witness, an opportunity to make Christ known as he made the best of every situation. There's an old saying to that effect, making the best of a bad situation. And I think he is probably one in my memory. I know a lot of folks who are having difficult times right now. We have all been there. There's some a little worse than others, but he indeed probably is top of my list of those that I have read about and know who have done that. So when I think about the things I go through, very small, minimal in the overall scheme of things. I have to think about him. And when I think about contentment, I think about being happy, not happy, but having joy. Big difference in whatever circumstance I find myself in. Then I think, yeah, we look around and uh, when we think about it and consider it, there is always, always someone going through something much worse. So it's being content with what God sends our way. God bless you today. And it's good to be back. It's good to see you. And we'll look forward to our next time together. Remember, God loves you, and so do I.